Val Kilmer is currently one of the most tragic examples of Hollywood eating its own, and the industry still will not admit what it did to him. He was once one of the most talented actors of his generation, someone who could disappear into any role, who brought intensity and commitment that most actors cannot touch. He was a massive star, a box office draw, someone studios fought to cast. And then Hollywood decided he was too difficult, too intense, too unwilling to play the game. So they sidelined him. They stopped calling. They let his career die while he was still capable of incredible work. And then, years later, throat cancer took his voice and almost took his life. Now he is back in a limited way, and people act surprised that he was always this talented. So what really happened? And why did Hollywood decide that Val Kilmer's artistry was less important than his willingness to be compliant? Today, we will be diving into what really happened to Val Kilmer, how he became the youngest student ever accepted into Juilliard's drama program, and what that level of talent looked like. Why his intensity and commitment to craft made him special, but also marked him as difficult. How Top Gun turned him into an overnight sensation he never asked to be. What his iconic roles in The Doors, Tombstone, Heat, and Batman Forever revealed about his range. Why the difficult label became a career death sentence. How he went from A-list leading man to struggling for work in less than a decade. What the throat cancer diagnosis meant for someone whose instrument was his voice. How he survived years of isolation and identity crisis. Why the documentary Val changed how people see his story, and what his limited return in Top Gun Maverick meant for his legacy. But you know what will never be difficult? Your support for this channel. So hit that subscribe button, and let's get on with the video. Val Kilmer was born in 1959 in Los Angeles. He grew up in a family that was comfortable but not connected to entertainment. What marked him from childhood was an unusual level of intensity and focus. He was not just interested in performing, he was obsessed with it. Theater, film, literature, poetry, all of it consumed him in ways that seemed extreme even to people around him. He had talent that was obvious from early on, but more than that, he had this driven quality that suggested he would either succeed spectacularly or burn out trying. At 17, he was accepted into Juilliard's drama program, one of the most prestigious acting schools in the world. He was not just accepted, he was the youngest student they had ever admitted. Juilliard saw something in a 17-year-old that was so exceptional they broke their own rules to bring him in. He trained alongside people years older, working with teachers who had shaped some of the greatest actors in history, and by all accounts, he held his own completely. He studied classical theater, Shakespeare, and serious dramatic technique, the foundation of real acting craft. This was not someone who wanted to be a movie star. This was someone who wanted to be a great actor. His early reputation was exactly what you would expect from that background. Serious, obsessive, demanding of himself and everyone around him. He took theater intensely seriously. He saw acting as art, not entertainment. He believed in total commitment to roles, in disappearing into characters, in finding truth in performance. This made him brilliant, but also difficult. He had opinions. He questioned directors. He pushed back when he thought choices were wrong. For people who valued collaboration and compromise, Val Kilmer was exhausting. For people who valued artistic integrity, he was inspiring. His breakthrough came in 1986 with Top Gun, and it was probably the worst thing that could have happened to his artistic ambitions. He played Iceman, the rival pilot to Tom Cruise's Maverick, and the film became one of the biggest hits of the decade. Suddenly, Val Kilmer was a movie star. He was on magazine covers, recognized everywhere, getting offered massive paychecks and huge studio films. But Top Gun was not what he wanted to be known for. It was a military recruitment ad disguised as an action film. It was style over substance, spectacle over story. He had trained at Juilliard to do Shakespeare and serious drama, and instead, he was famous for playing a fighter pilot in a movie about looking cool. The overnight fame was disorienting and unwelcome. He later talked about how uncomfortable the whole experience was, how the attention felt wrong, how being treated as a heartthrob seemed to have nothing to do with acting. But Hollywood had decided what he was now. He was a leading man, a star, someone who could open films. The industry wanted to put him in more action films, more commercial projects, more roles that capitalized on his looks and charisma. What they did not understand was that Val Kilmer had different ambitions entirely. But he was smart enough to use the Top Gun success strategically. Through the late 80s and into the 90s, he built a career that balanced commercial work with serious artistic projects. He did Willow, a fantasy film that was a modest hit. He did The Doors in 1991, playing Jim Morrison in a performance that was genuinely brilliant. He did not just imitate Morrison, he became him. He learned to sing like him, move like him, channel his energy and darkness. The performance was so convincing that actual Doors members said they forgot they were not watching Morrison. That is, method acting at its highest level. Then came Tombstone in 1993, where he played Doc Holliday opposite Kurt Russell's Wyatt Earp. This is the role people still talk about. His Doc Holliday was witty, dangerous, dying of tuberculosis, but still sharper than everyone around him. The performance was layered and memorable in ways that elevated the entire film. He improvised the famous line, "I am your Huckleberry," which became iconic. He brought depth to a character that could have been just another Western sidekick. It showed his range completely. He could do drama, action, comedy, all while dying convincingly of disease. Heat. In 1995, put him in scenes with Robert De Niro and Al Pacino, two of the greatest actors in film history. He held his own. His performance as a professional criminal was controlled and intense. The bank robbery scene is one of the best action sequences ever filmed, and Val Kilmer's precision and commitment make it work. Then he played Batman in Batman Forever, taking on one of the most iconic roles in cinema. The film was criticized for being too cartoonish under Joel Schumacher's direction, but Val Kilmer's Bruce Wayne was serious, damaged, and interesting. He tried to bring psychological depth to a role that the film did not really support. His method acting and total immersion in roles were impressive but also created tension. He would stay in character between takes. He would challenge directors about choices and motivations. He needed things to make sense dramatically and would not just do something because it looked cool or because the studio wanted it. This approach produces incredible performances but makes you difficult to work with by Hollywood standards. Directors want actors who show up, say the lines, hit the marks, and do not question the process. Val Kilmer questioned everything. The stories from sets started accumulating and spreading through the industry. He clashed with Joel Schumacher on Batman Forever so badly that Schumacher publicly called him the most psychologically troubled person he had ever worked with. He had conflicts with directors, with producers, with co-stars. The details varied, but the pattern was consistent. Val Kilmer was uncompromising about the work. He had strong opinions about how scenes should be played. He did not accept things just because someone with authority said so, and Hollywood hates that. Hollywood wants compliance and gratitude, and actors who understand their place in the hierarchy. The difficult label became his identity in industry circles. It did not matter that his performances were consistently excellent. It did not matter that audiences responded to his work. What mattered to studios and producers was that he made their jobs harder. He slowed down production by questioning choices. He created tension on sets by demanding excellence. He refused to just be a handsome face delivering lines. The label spread through back channels, through conversations between executives and agents. Word got out, Val Kilmer is talented, but he is not worth the trouble. Hollywood punishes actors labeled uncooperative in ways that are subtle but effective. The offers stop coming from major studios. The roles get smaller. The budgets get lower. You are still working, but you are no longer a priority. They will cast someone less talented but easier to control. This happened to Val Kilmer through the late 1990s. He was still getting roles, but they were in smaller films with less visibility. A-list opportunities dried up. He went from Batman and Heat to direct-to-video action films in less than 5 years. The career decline was obvious and painful. Fewer leading roles meant less income and less relevance. He was transitioning to lower-profile projects out of necessity, not choice. Films like The Saint in 1997 and The Island of Dr. Moreau in 1996 were troubled productions that hurt his reputation. The Island of Dr. Moreau especially was a disaster. Director Richard Stanley was fired and replaced by John Frankenheimer, who also clashed with Val Kilmer. The film became infamous for its chaotic production and terrible quality. Financial instability followed the career decline. He had made good money during his peak years, but he also spent heavily, supported family members, and maintained the lifestyle that comes with being a star. When the big roles stopped coming, the financial pressure became real. He took roles in films that were beneath his talent level because he needed the work. This is the trap successful actors fall into. They get used to a certain lifestyle and income level, and when the work dries up, they cannot adjust quickly enough. Watching peers move ahead while his career stalled must have been bitter. Actors he had worked with, actors with less talent but better industry relationships, stayed successful while he struggled. Tom Cruise stayed a megastar. Robert Downey Jr. had his own fall and massive comeback. Other actors from his generation maintained relevance. Val Kilmer was increasingly forgotten, relegated to the whatever happened to category. By the early 2000s, he was doing small films, character roles, independent projects that barely got distribution. Then, around 2015, his health began failing in ways that became impossible to hide. He developed throat cancer, though he did not publicly acknowledge it for years. The treatments were brutal: radiation, chemotherapy, and eventually a tracheotomy that permanently damaged his voice. For an actor whose instrument is their voice, this was devastating. He could not speak normally anymore. He had to communicate through a voice box or by typing. The cancer and treatments ravaged his body. He lost weight. He looked fragile in ways that shocked people who remembered him as a leading man. The diagnosis and treatment removed him from the spotlight completely. He could not work even if anyone was offering roles. He was fighting to survive, dealing with pain and fear and the loss of his voice. For someone who had defined himself through performance and speech, losing the ability to talk normally was almost like losing his identity. The isolation during this period was total. He was not making films. He was not doing interviews. He was just trying to survive. Life after Hollywood during his illness was quiet and difficult. He retreated to his ranch in New Mexico, away from Los Angeles and the industry. He struggled with identity questions that would break most people. If you are an actor but you cannot act anymore, what are you? If your whole life has been about performance and suddenly you cannot perform, what is left? He later talked about how dark this period was, how lost he felt, how he had to find reasons to keep going that had nothing to do with career or fame. The struggle to relearn communication was ongoing and painful. Speaking through a voice box is not natural. It is mechanical and limited. He had to learn new ways to express himself, to connect with people, to perform if that was ever going to be possible again. His son helped him assemble a documentary using footage Val had been filming throughout his life. Val had recorded everything: his early career, his family life, behind-the-scenes moments, everything. The documentary project gave him purpose during recovery and isolation. The emotional comeback began with the documentary Val in 2021. Amazon released it, and audiences saw Val Kilmer in a completely new light. The film showed his early ambition, his incredible talent, his artistic integrity. It also showed his vulnerability, his illness, and his struggle to communicate. Seeing him speak through a voice box, frail but still himself, was devastating and inspiring at the same time. The documentary reframed his entire career. People understood that the difficult label was about an artist refusing to compromise, rather than ego or cruelty. Public reappraisal of his career happened quickly after the documentary. Critics and fans looked back at his performances with fresh appreciation. The roles in Tombstone, Heat, and The Doors were re-examined and praised. People recognized that his method acting and intensity had produced some of the most memorable performances of the 90s. The narrative shifted from a difficult actor who burned bridges to an artist destroyed by an industry that values compliance over talent. The emotional response from fans was overwhelming. People who had grown up watching his films expressed love and support. Younger audiences discovering his work for the first time were impressed by his range and commitment. Social media filled with appreciation for his performances. The documentary showed him reading messages from fans and being visibly moved by the support. After years of isolation and irrelevance, he was being celebrated again. Then came Top Gun Maverick in 2022, a return to the screen for Val Kilmer. Tom Cruise insisted on bringing Val Kilmer back as Iceman, despite his health issues and his limited ability to speak. The filmmakers wrote around his limitations. His scenes were brief but emotional and powerful. Seeing Iceman and Maverick reconcile after decades felt like closure for the characters and the actors. Val Kilmer's limited appearance became one of the most talked about aspects of the film. People cried watching him. It felt like Hollywood finally acknowledging what it had taken from him and what he had survived. The real story of what happened to Val Kilmer is not just about ego or arrogance like Hollywood wanted people to believe. It's about an artist who refused to compromise his integrity for convenience. He challenged directors because he believed in finding truth in performance. He questioned choices because he cared about the work more than the business. That made him difficult by industry standards, but it also made his performances memorable. Hollywood discards difficult but talented people regularly. The industry would rather work with compliant mediocrity than challenging excellence. The mix of uncompromising artistry, industry politics, and illness created the perfect storm to end his career. He was too intense for an industry that values ease. He made enemies because he prioritized craft over relationships. Then illness took away his voice and his ability to work just when he might have been ready to rebuild. Any one of those factors might have been survivable. All three together were devastating. How Hollywood discards difficult but talented people is systematic and ruthless. They do not fire you dramatically or blacklist you officially. They just stop calling. The opportunities dry up. You are replaced with someone easier to control. Your reputation spreads through whispered conversations and vague warnings. Before you know it, you are unemployable, not because you are untalented, but because you are inconvenient. That is what happened to Val Kilmer. He was too good and too difficult, and Hollywood chose difficulty over quality. Why his fall feels tragic rather than deserved is because he never stopped being talented. His performances throughout his career were consistently excellent. He gave everything to his roles. He created memorable characters that people still talk about decades later. But the industry punished him for having standards and questioning authority. If he had been less talented, maybe the difficult reputation would not have mattered. If he had been more compliant, his talent would have kept him working forever. Being both talented and difficult was the unforgivable combination. His legacy as one of the most versatile actors of his era is undeniable now. He could do action, drama, comedy, and historical figures, everything. Jim Morrison, Doc Holliday, Batman. Professional criminals, all completely different and all completely convincing. That range is rare. Most actors have one gear, one type of role they do well. Val Kilmer could do anything and make it work. That is the definition of a great actor. The roles grew stronger with time because good performances age well. Watching Tombstone now, his Doc Holliday is still the best thing in the film. Heat still holds up as one of the great crime films, and his performance is a major reason. The Doors remains the definitive Jim Morrison portrayal. These performances did not fade or become dated. They stayed powerful because they were rooted in real craft and commitment. His influence on modern actors who value method and immersion is significant. Christian Bale's intensity and physical transformations, Daniel Day-Lewis's complete immersion, these approaches trace back to actors like Val Kilmer, who showed that total commitment produces results. The current generation of serious actors owes something to the path he helped establish. He proved that movie stars could also be real actors if they were willing to work for it. Why Val Kilmer is remembered differently today than during his peak is because context matters. During his career, the difficult label defined him. Now people understand that difficulty often means integrity. The documentary humanized him and showed the cost of his choices. The throat cancer made his absence tragic rather than self-inflicted. The industry's treatment of him looks worse in retrospect as we understand more about how Hollywood destroys people who will not conform. Looking at his complete story, what stands out is how fast Hollywood turns on its stars. He went from Batman to irrelevance in less than 5 years. The same executives who had been desperate to work with him suddenly wanted nothing to do with him. The loyalty was never real. The respect was conditional. The moment he became inconvenient, he was discarded. That is the brutal reality of how the industry operates. You are only valuable as long as you are compliant and profitable. Whether his talent ever fit the system is a real question. He had Juilliard training and serious artistic ambitions operating in an industry built on commerce and convenience. He wanted to make art in a system designed to make money. That fundamental mismatch created constant tension. Maybe he should have stayed in theater where artistic integrity matters more. Maybe he should have been more strategic about picking battles. Or maybe the system should value excellence over ease and recognize that difficult artists often produce the best work. The truth is that Val Kilmer was not forgotten by audiences. People still loved his performances, people still wanted to see him. He was pushed out by an industry that decided his talent was not worth dealing with his integrity. That is on Hollywood, not on him. The industry failed him, not the other way around. And when he got throat cancer and lost his voice, Hollywood could not even acknowledge its role in isolating him before illness made it permanent. His return in Top Gun. Maverick felt like vindication, but it also felt like too little too late. It was beautiful and emotional, and it was also a reminder of everything that was taken from him. He should have worked consistently through the past 2 decades. He should have had the career his talent deserved. Instead, he got a few minutes in a sequel to the film that made him famous 40 years ago. It is better than nothing, but it is not justice. What his story teaches is that artistic integrity has a price in Hollywood. You can be brilliant, but if you are difficult, the industry will destroy you. You can be right about creative choices, but if you make powerful people uncomfortable, you will pay for it. The system does not reward excellence, it rewards compliance. Val Kilmer chose excellence and paid for that choice with his career. Whether that was worth it only, he can answer. But what is clear now is that he was one of the great actors of his generation. Someone who created indelible performances that still resonate decades later. Hollywood tried to erase him and failed. The work survived. The talent was undeniable. And now, even without his voice, even after everything he lost, he is remembered as he should be. Not as a difficult actor who burned out, but as an artist who refused to compromise and paid a terrible price for that integrity. Some stars do not fall, they are pushed. Val Kilmer was pushed out by an industry that could not handle his refusal to just be grateful and compliant. That is not his failure. That is Hollywood's. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy this kind of content, please comment, like, and subscribe. It really helps the channel. And as ever, I really do look forward to seeing you all in the next one.